All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving deep into the real story of Jordan Belfort. You know the name, right? The guy who scammed millions of dollars, barely did any time for it, and then got to watch Hollywood turn his life of crime into this epic blockbuster legend. It's a wild story.
And yeah, let's just start right there, with the biggest paradox of all. This guy is a convicted felon, yet he's celebrated like some kind of pop culture hero. I mean, how does that even happen? How does a man who literally ruined thousands of lives end up as an icon?
Okay, let this sink in. 22 months. That's it. That is how long Jordan Belfort spent in a minimum security, a country club prison for running a massive multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. We're talking less than 2 years.
And this number? $110 million. That's how much he was ordered to pay back to the people he ripped off. And guess what? The vast majority of it still unpaid to this day. So the big question is, how did we get here? How did this all happen?
Okay, let's rewind. Section 1, Birth of a Salesman. It really all starts with this kid from a pretty normal working-class neighborhood in Queens, but he had this just absolutely relentless ambition.
Even as a teenager, you could see the hustle. He made a cool 20 grand one summer just selling Italian ices on the beach. Pretty good, right? So he takes that drive and enrolls in dental school. But that little adventure was cut short by some, let's say, very direct advice. Yep, that's what the dean told the entire incoming class on day one. And Jordan Belfort? He just stood up, nodded, and walked right out. Same day. His path was changed forever, right at that moment. And it led him first to a door-to-door meat and seafood business, which, by the way, went bankrupt super fast.
But here's the thing. In the middle of that business failure, he had this huge aha moment. He realized his superpower wasn't selling meat or seafood. His talent was the sale itself. The product didn't matter one bit. He could sell anything to literally anyone.
So next up, the Stratton Oakmont Empire. He takes this newfound superpower to Wall Street, gets a legit job, but then, boom, the 1987 Black Monday crash hits and he gets fired. But that's when he stumbles into this kind of unregulated gold mine, penny stocks. And this was his pitch. I mean, it's just genius in its simplicity. He wasn't really selling stocks, was he? No. He was selling the dream of getting rich, the dream of being first, of being in on the secret. And the kicker? For every single dollar he sold, he kept 50 cents in commission, an insane cut. So what's next? He founded his own firm, Stratton Oakmont. Sounds super prestigious, right? Well, it was really just a boiler room and a strip mall. And he didn't hire Wall Street pros. No way. He hired hungry, loyal misfits. We're talking bartenders, college dropouts, people he could mold into these high-pressure closing machines using his famous straight-line sales method.
Now, the whole engine driving this money machine was the pump and dump. And let's be clear, this had nothing to do with investing. It was a carefully orchestrated scam from the very beginning to the very end.
And the playbook was so simple, it was devastating. First, step 1, they'd buy up huge blocks of basically worthless stock for pennies. Step 2, their army of brokers gets on the phone and creates this massive hype, this urgency. They prey on that basic human fear of missing out. Then, once they drive the price way up with all that fake excitement, Belfort and his inner circle dump all of their shares at the peak price, and poof, the stock crashes and all their investors are left holding worthless paper.
All right, Section 3, Excess, Greed, and Rot. As you can imagine, with hundreds of millions of dollars flooding in, the whole firm just descended into this carnival of absolute chaos and moral decay. It was off the rails.
I mean, just look at this office environment. This wasn't an accident. Belvar built this culture on purpose. It was a management strategy. By creating this insane high-pressure cult of money, loyalty, and fear, he made sure his brokers were too greedy, too compromised, and frankly, too loyal to ever question what they were doing. If you were a top performer, you were treated like a king. But if you fell behind, you were publicly humiliated and probably replaced within a few hours.
And as the scam got bigger and bigger, so did the problem of what to do with all that cash. So they had to get creative. This thing evolved into a massive international money laundering operation. We're talking millions funneled through a crazy web of shell companies and Swiss bank accounts. Anything to keep those illicit gains hidden from regulators.
You know, Belfort's personal life pretty much mirrored the total rot inside his firm. It was just a spiral into extreme drug abuse and truly shocking recklessness. He really started to believe he was untouchable, like he was some kind of god in an Armani suit.
So next up, the FBI closes in, because while Belfort felt absolutely invincible, well, the authorities were finally starting to connect the dots. The complaints from all the investors he'd ruined were really starting to pile up.
And you can see here, the walls started closing in, slowly but surely. It really began back in '94 when the SEC started flagging suspicious filings. By early '96, some of Belfort's own guys had flipped and were wearing wires for the FBI. Then his yacht sinks, which brings a ton of bad press. Then the feds raid the offices. And the final nail in the coffin? Early '97, Belfort himself wires millions to Switzerland, basically handing the FBI the smoking gun they needed.
Okay, Section 5, Justice? Or maybe the second act. Facing up to 30 years in federal prison, Jordan Belfort did the one thing he does best. He sold. Only this time, he wasn't selling stocks. He was selling out his friends and his colleagues to save his own skin.
So yeah, he cooperated fully with the FBI. He turned over more than 30 employees. These are the very people he trained and mentored. And in exchange for all that testimony, his sentence was just slashed. In fact, some of his old brokers actually ended up serving more time than he did. Think about that.
So when you look at these three fates, who really paid the price for the whole Stratton Oakmont fraud? You've got the mastermind, Jordan Belfort, who basically reinvents himself and turns his crimes into a super profitable brand. Then you have his brokers, the foot soldiers, who did prison time and had their careers destroyed. And then you have the victims, the thousands of people who fueled this whole empire. They were left with nothing, lost life savings, drained retirement funds, some even lost their homes. And for the most part, they were just forgotten.
See, he didn't just escape justice, he totally repackaged it. Get this, his cellmate was the comedian Tommy Chong, from Cheech and Chong. And Chong told him his stories were hilarious and he should write a book. So, he did. He turned this whole story of massive fraud into a thrilling tale of ambition and crazy excess, and people just could not get enough of it.
And today, where is he now? Jordan Belfort is a super successful sales coach, an author, a public speaker, and the irony is just incredible. He now teaches business ethics. Meanwhile, that $110 million he was ordered to pay back to his victims, the teachers, the mechanics, the regular people he scammed, almost none of it has been paid. It just vanished into legal loopholes and offshore accounts.
And that really leaves us with this final, kind of unsettling question. Why does our culture so often celebrate the wolf instead of siding with the sheep he devoured? What is it about the story of the charismatic con man that makes us forget all about the people he conned?